Welcome to It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach with your host, Sister A. Legree, providing information and support while encouraging hope and faith. You can log on to our website at igbatt.com or igbattmho.org. You can write us at Post Office Box 7432, Silver Spring, Maryland 20910. And again, this is Sister A. Legree, and It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach, providing information and support while encouraging hope and faith. You can log on to our website, find out more about us, and see some of the things that we do. Today I wanted to talk about, I entitled this Mental Exhaustion, because some of us are mentally exhausted. Earlier we talked about depression, and I was going to touch on that again, but then one of the definitions, or one of the symptoms, if you will, of depression is an overwhelming sense of just feeling like you don't feel like doing anything. Okay, and for many people, you feel that way. It's not necessarily that you're depressed, even though you could be, or clinically depressed, even though you could be. I think I wrote some notes down to remind myself. But for the most part, some of us are just you're just mentally drained, you're just mentally overwhelmed. You're just mentally drained and mentally overwhelmed, okay? So when we talk about what is mental exhaustion, there are different definitions, and I wanted to use the one that came out of NIMH, because I always kind of use that. This one is from Healthline, and it talks about when the brain receives too much stimulation or has to maintain an intense level of activity. So let's stop there. And let me go forward and say, what is stress? Stress is any demand placed on the body that's good or bad. So stress can be good or bad. What's stressful for you may not be stressful for me. So it just varies what the situation is. Both of us can undergo the same situation, but because of our level of functioning, because of our history, because of how we process information, our personality, we may process it differently. Someone else two of us can get into a car accident. One of us may be fine to drive, no problems. The other person may have ongoing PTSD or startle responses as it relates to driving again. So it just varies. But what happens is when stress doesn't go away, when stress is continued, right? So your body is continued. It's one thing, if stress happens, your body will elevate to handle the stress, right? And then the stress is gone, everything is fine. But when your body has to continually, okay, this is the stress, has to continually handle that stress, after a period of time, it can begin to weigh on you, okay? So when we talk about stress, what is stress? When we think about in 2022, there are all types of things that we've been dealing with, right? We're coming out of the pandemic. The kids are going back to school full time. I think last year they went a little bit in some places, but they're really going back to school in full force. So we're still dealing with that. We're looking at financial stressors. So from the last 2 years, last 2 years in America or whatever, last 2 years, many people have had to deal with ongoing stress. Some people were able to stay home, and then some people there weren't. There were some people who were out on the front line, right? Being out on the front line for the last several years, you had to deal with all that stressor day in, day out, all that particular expectation, and without a break. So now that people are coming back, you still, it's not like you got a break. When it happened, the pandemic happened, I was one of the people that we didn't get a break. We still continued to work, right? So once we continued to work, then other people joined with their particular stressors, and then with everybody still moving forward, it put an additional stress on those of us who kind of stayed behind. But it's important, not to stay behind, we continue to work. It's important for us to realize what our stresses are and what is impacting us. We have to realize that we're not like the Energizer Bunny where you just keep going and keep going and keep going. There's a cost. There's a cost. You may not realize it. Your family and friends may realize it, and you may not. So when we talk about stress, stress impacts our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. It impacts our mood. So when we talk about mental exhaustion, that's what happens. When the brain begins to receive too much stimulation or has to maintain an intense level of stress, or basically when you're under stress for a long period of time and you just got to keep going. Some people are raising children. Some of you are dealing with your husband, dealing with your wife. Some of us are dealing with, job situations, financial concerns, driving back and forth. It's just a lot of different things that's going on in your life, in addition to work, in addition to health concerns, a whole lot of stuff that's going on. And normally you're able to kind of move through it, but sometimes you find yourself just really slowing down. Okay, sometimes you slow down to the point where you don't really feel like doing anything. You don't know why you're slowing down. And I want to say that it's okay to stop, right? It's okay to take a break. The thing is that sometimes in our lives we may find ourselves moving a little slower. Just don't stop. Just keep going. And keep going doesn't mean that you keep going at the same pace, but it means that you may have to slow down a little bit and kind of take care of yourself. So when we talk about stress itself, as I said, mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally, that it impacts us, right? So when we talk about stress itself, just a couple of symptoms, right? It can trigger depression. Okay, stress is, we can see, sad or a depressive type mood where you're not necessarily clinically depressed, but you're feeling depressed. So you're looking at sadness, you're looking at irritability, you can see some anger. You can see some hard to handle emotions. You're easily overwhelmed. Things that you were able to handle before, now is becoming like really hard to do. You have difficulty concentrating. You can't remember things. You think it's old age, and that's not the case. You find yourself, you're doing 3 or 4 projects at the same time, and you don't, remember what you're doing. We're talking about you kind of get pessimistic sometimes. You start feeling like, what's worth it? I don't care. You find yourself staying at home or sleeping for hours, and sometimes not necessarily even sleeping. Sometimes you just find yourself sitting home. I think for people who are, let's say, for example, who have been diagnosed with depression, you may know what I'm talking about, because, you may find yourself where you just, for hours and days at end, you don't really feel like doing anything. You're just there, okay? Well, while that happens to people who are clinically depressed, it can happen to anyone, especially when you're looking at mental exhaustion or when you're under a lot of stress. Because at some point, the body begins to say enough is enough. But if you find yourself just in a place where you're stopped, you just don't feel like moving, you're moving slowly, you're just home in your bed or sitting on your couch, not even really watching TV because you can't concentrate, and you just feel like, just overwhelmed, okay? Just want to kind of point out a couple of things, just share a couple of tips with you. When you talk about feeling overwhelmed, you want to take a look at what's going on with you. Okay, what is going on with my life? Where am I? What's going on physically? What's going on emotionally? And begin, I always say, pull out a pen or paper and begin to see, what can I do? What are these things are, and what can I do that's causing me this particular stress? You may need to, if you need to ask someone, hey, because sometimes family or friends can notice things about you that you may not notice. They may notice, hey, I'm noticing, hey, we're calling you to go out. You never want to go out, or you're not answering your phone. What's going on? Because you may not really realize it, just how overwhelmed you are. When you look around, you see a lot of people are just snapping for no reason. They're just so irritable. You say hi to them, and they're about to, they'll take your head off, so to speak. So again, what is really kind of going on with you? So that's number one. If you find yourself in a situation where you don't feel like doing anything, okay, you find yourself, you have no energy, you just don't feel like doing anything. You feel like giving up. You may feel like you're worthless. Just know that moment will pass. Okay, you got to know that moment will pass. That moment is just a moment in time. Things will change. You just have to make it, hang on until the next moment. So when you're in your couch and you're in your bed or whatever, and you find yourself in that place not feeling like doing anything, again, pull out a pen or paper and begin a schedule. And for some people, depending on where you are, you may need to see a doctor. You may need to, to see what's going on physically. You may need to see a doctor to see what's going on mentally, if it's gotten to the point where you might need to take medications. But that's not the case for everyone, right? So what you may find yourself doing, as I said, is just not feel like doing anything. And when you get to that case, that situation, you have to begin to say, okay, one thing at a time, like one step at a time. You write yourself, take a look at what you're doing, okay? For the last 2 days, I haven't done anything. I haven't felt like doing anything. As soon as I get home, I'm straight to bed. I'm under the covers. I'm not necessarily sleeping. I may be sleeping too much. I may be sleeping too well. At all. I may be restless. I may be irritable. I may be, just everything overwhelms me. I'm just tired all the time. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. When you look at your behavior, okay, look at your behavior. What are you doing? If any of this fits you, are you in the category that I just mentioned? What are you doing? What is your behavior? Okay. Then as you begin to look at your behavior, take a look at what you're thinking. What are you feeling? What thoughts are you telling yourself? Because again, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors go together. So what are you thinking? Okay. Well, what are you thinking? What's triggering this particular behavior? Okay. So what you want to do is, again, as I said, write things down. Take a look at thoughts, feelings, behaviors. What's motivating this? What's causing this feeling? What's triggering this? And you may need to put yourself on a schedule. You may need to say, okay, today's Saturday. I'm going to give myself Saturday, Friday to Saturday, to feel a certain way, to not to do anything. Okay, to mope around, to lay around. I'm just going to give myself that. Sunday I'm going to get up, and I'm going to get up for at least a few hours, and I'm going to do something that I didn't feel like doing before, right? And then the next day I may do 2 hours or 3 hours. You have to give yourself permission, number one, to not do anything, to say, okay, I need to just rest, because sometimes the body needs that. But then other times you have to realize, okay, this is not what should be happening. Something is going on with me. I need to push through this, right? But when you push through, you're not pushing through in the sense that you're ignoring what's going on with you. Because some of us are really good at pushing through, but you're ignoring things that need to be addressed. What I'm talking about pushing through is that you're looking at what needs to be addressed, and then you're moving. You're not staying still. You're doing something, even if it's just cleaning the bathroom, okay, and then going back to bed, or even if it's just cleaning the kitchen, or sweeping the floor, or changing your wardrobe around. Just something that you're doing to kind of get yourself back in the back in life, to do something. Because here's the thing. As I said before, from a spiritual standpoint, the enemy would desire to kill, steal, and destroy. And if he can use your emotions, my emotions, our feelings, our behaviors to do that, he will. What does he kill, steal, and destroy? Your time. He kills, steal, and destroy your potential. Because if I am spending time, let's just say all weekends, let's say three or 4 days, in the bed not doing anything, that's 3 or 4 days that I missed out on being productive. That's 3 or 4 days that I missed out on being able to find out what it is that the Spirit of the Lord, that the Holy Spirit would have for me to do. That's 3 or 4 days where I'm behind my destiny, behind. And then this is another trick. What happens is that if we're not doing anything, it could be something small, okay, as I said, something really small to start out with. Then what will happen is you overlook things. You begin to miss certain things that you should be doing. And then because you overlooked it and because you missed it, when the deadline comes up, now you're behind the 8 ball. Right? You don't feel like doing that particular project because you just don't feel like it. You're just emotionally drained, right? So, but the project is due Wednesday and you just don't feel like it. So now Tuesday comes and you're forcing yourself mentally to do it, and you're doing it, but now the printer is not working. Now your computer is acting up, and now, which causes you more stress because you have to have this project in at Wednesday at 7 a.m. and it's Tuesday at 11:30 p.m. at night, and you're scrambling around. So now you're more stressed. Now you're more overwhelmed. See, it's a trick to this. You have to keep in mind that, yes, we get sick. That happens. These bodies will get sick. Some of us will get sick physically, emotionally, but we'll get sick. Our brain will get sick. Our hearts may get sick. Sickness, it just happens. Diseases is part of our life. Jesus has come that we might have life and life more abundantly. People will say, no, that's not part of my life. I'm talking about in general, human beings, humankind. Okay? You may get sick. You may get a cold. It may be for a few seconds, it may be for a week, it may be for a month. So some people may get sick, overnight, and for some people it drags on. But sickness is part of the body. The body does get sick. Things happen to our bodies. There are remedies out there that can help us to overcome, right? There are remedies, sometimes it's surgery, sometimes it's, taking the medications or talking to someone. Sometimes, but those things don't take away from prayer. They don't take away from reading the Word. They don't take away from your relationship with Jesus Christ. It doesn't take away from any of those things. But keep in mind, just because you're sick and you have a relationship with Jesus Christ and you still continue to be sick, that doesn't stop him from using you. That doesn't stop him. He's not discouraged. He's not upset. A lot of times we may feel like I don't have the faith that I need because I'm still sick, because I'm still feeling a certain way, and that's not the case. Sometimes the bodies just get sick. Things just happen, okay? So the thing is, the problem is not your sickness. The problem is your relationship with Jesus Christ. The problem is your view of your sickness, okay? He knew when he created you what situations was going to happen in your life. So you don't have to use that as an excuse. You don't have to let that be, okay, because I'm feeling a certain way, this is happening in my life. That doesn't have to be the case. And again, that's from a spiritual standpoint, right? Emotionally, for people who may not have a faith base, you may have thoughts and feelings that, wow, I'm sick, I shouldn't be sick, I'm stronger than this, I'm better than this, why am I crying all the time, what's wrong with me, I'm stupid, I'm an egghead, just all these type of names that we call ourselves when we get down on ourselves, right? The problem is then when we have thoughts that cause us to think about ourselves in ways that are not true, or to think about ourselves in these absolute terms, like I'm so stupid, I'm always behind the 8 ball, I am such an idiot. When we start using these particular words, these are absolute words that we get into our spirit. We have to watch what we say, especially during times when we're not feeling particularly well, which leads me to my next point. When we're feeling overwhelmed, sad, it's important that we, number one, as I said, write things down, take an inventory of where you are, what's triggering you, what are your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. First start taking a look at your behaviors, because you may not be aware initially what your thoughts and feelings are, but look at your behavior. Why am I in the bed 3 days in a row? Okay, why am I going home as soon as I get from work, going under the cover? And just not talking to anybody, taking the phone off the hook. Am I sick? Okay. Am I sick? Maybe I'm sick. Okay. All right, let me go to the doctor, maybe make an appointment to see what's going on. Well, I don't feel like going to the doctor. I don't feel like making an appointment. Okay. So maybe it's something else. Okay. You have to do an inventory about what's kind of going on in your life. Lord, what is happening to me? Why am I feeling this way? Especially if it's something that happens suddenly. Sometimes it can be a physical symptoms that's impacting your emotions, that's impacting your behavior. Thoughts, feelings, and behaviors all go together. The physical, it has a big impact on our thoughts and on our feelings and our behavior. I know for me, when I'm feeling sick, it's hard for me to concentrate. It's hard for me, because I'm a person, I don't get sick. Thank God I'm not a person that gets sick often. But when I do get sick, it's hard for me because when I'm sick, it's hard for me to concentrate. It's hard for me to focus. Because a lot of what I do, it requires me to think and concentrate, and I can't do that. So when I can't think, I can't concentrate, I get irritable, I get depressed, I get sad, like, oh, what poor is me, what's going on? Because I'm sick. It all goes back to what's happening physically. So when you're feeling a certain way, you have to take inventory of your behavior, take inventory of what are you feeding yourself, what are you saying to yourself. So as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. What exactly are you saying to yourself? As I've said several times, if it was possible to carry a tape recorder around with us for 30 days, what type of thoughts will be recorded on your tape recorder? Not the thoughts that if I were to ask you, tell me about your thoughts. What thoughts are on your tape recorder? You would probably tell me, no, I don't say bad things about myself. No, I don't put myself down, because you're not aware of it. You're not aware of just how automatic thoughts are. Sometimes we don't even think about it. Oh man, that's stupid. I should have went the other way. Right? You have to be careful with what you say to yourself, because what you say to yourself is getting into your spirit and you begin to believe it. Unfortunately, when we are by ourselves, and many times when you're sad, depressed, that's what happens. We withdraw. We don't want to be around people. The problem with that is that when you're not around people, you don't have anyone to bounce your ideas off. You don't have anyone to challenge your thoughts or to help you kind of challenge those thoughts, those feelings and behaviors. You don't have anyone that will say, when you say something like, oh gosh, things never work out for me. You don't have anyone around you that can say, now come on now, that's not right. That is not true. Because remember just last week, da-da-da-da-da. Or remember yesterday, da-da-da-da-da. You know, when you say to yourself, oh gosh, no one loves me. If you don't have anybody around you, you begin to think that. You begin to believe it. But when you have people around you, then you can bounce those thoughts off. They say, what are you talking about? I love you. Well, I don't know. You know, because you got to begin to challenge those thoughts. And if you don't have anybody, we have to begin to learn to do it ourselves. But it's a learning process. Because if you're listening to me and you are over 18 years of age, you have more time thinking negative things than you have thinking positive things, right? You have more time being cynical than you have not being cynical. You have more practice. You have more practice with your saying things about yourself that are not necessarily true than you do about challenging your particular thoughts. And when I say things that are not necessarily true, yes, it may be true that was a stupid mistake, okay? But it's not true that I'm stupid. It may be true that, dang, man, what is wrong with me? Why didn't you do A, B, or C? Okay? It may be true. My judgment was poor in this particular situation. It's okay to say, okay, my judgment was poor in this particular situation, but it's not true that I always have poor judgment. It was just poor in this particular situation. Okay? Oh, man, goodness, why did I hook up with this particular guy? I always get the wrong guy. No, it just may be this particular situation. So again, you don't want to say things about yourself that are not true. And when we start getting into this always, everybody, nobody, way of thinking or overgeneralizing different things, then it kind of brings us down, and we don't want to do that. So again, when we talk about mental exhaustion, okay, as I was saying before, we have to pay attention to where we are, what's happening to us. Some of us are tired, but it's not physically. You're not physical tired, because even if you go out on the beach and you don't really challenge what's going on with you mentally or emotionally, you're still not, when you come back from the beach, you're still going to be tired. So you have to begin to take a look at what's happening and begin to challenge the source of your mental exhaustion. Sometimes, you can't just say, I'm going to talk to someone, I'm going to take a break. That's great. But if you have something in your life that needs to be changed, you need to change it. And there's something in your life that needs to be adjusted, you need to adjust it. You need to come up with a plan to adjust it, right? If there's something in your life, you need to talk to someone. You need to have a conversation. Don't shy away from it. Have the conversation. Whatever it is, there's a way out. There's a strategy for what we're dealing with. Well, also, what you want to do is think about where is your happy place? What is it that makes you feel good? What is it that gives you that energy? So I was saying before that you may have to make a list and do things step by step, right? Instead of staying in bed all day for 2 days, you may only do it for 1 day. And then the next day, you may force yourself to go for a walk. You may force yourself, to put on clothes or to take a shower. And for some people, it gets that, you know what I'm talking about. It gets that bad sometimes, right? You may have to force yourself to do that. But you'll find that as you force yourself to do certain things, that you'll find strength coming back. There are certain things that will give you strength, and there are certain things that will take life away from you. You want to pay attention to, become aware. What are those things where I can draw strength from? Reading the Word. There are some times when you can't even read your Bible or read because it's hard to concentrate. This goes beyond, as soon as you start reading your Bible, people fall asleep. This goes beyond that. It's just that your mind is so full, your emotions, your spirit, your heart is so full of so many different things that your mind is racing, that your thoughts are racing, and you can't concentrate, and it's just difficult to focus on one particular thing, right? Because you're worried. Jesus said to Martha, he said, Martha, you are worried about so many different things, right? You're worried about so many different things. Some of you are worried about your husband, your kid. As I said, this person in jail, this person owe you money, your health, your sickness. What if this happens? What if this doesn't happen? What if I get the job? What if I get fired? What if I lose my car because I got fired? And if I lose my car, what if I don't have any money for the bus? And suppose I have money for the bus, but then the bus don't come, or the bus breaks down. If the bus breaks down, then I have to walk. But then I can't walk because I have bad knees. And then what am I going to do? You just start thinking about all types of things, and nothing has even come to pass yet. You still have a job. You still have your car. So all this other stuff is just you just kind of thinking about the worst case scenario. And what happens is, going back to cynicism, when you're pessimistic, people are saying, hey, you can kind of make it, or this could happen. Oh, no, I can't. I can't do this. Everything is pessimist. You're just pessimistic. You're just cynical. You see somebody doing good. Yeah, she's doing good now, but wait till her husband leaves her, or wait till his wife does so-and-so, so-and-so. All of this, you have to take a look at what's going on with you. Okay, why am I feeling this way? What's triggering this? Okay, what am I telling myself? Why am I feeling this way? How long have I been feeling this way? What other else symptoms do I have? And I think that's so important, is just becoming aware. Let me read something here to you. And this is from NIMH, National Institute of Mental Health, and you can go into our website. Okay, and I wanted to read some signs and symptoms. Exercise, eating healthy, and all those things are important as well. I know I read some, but I wanted to maybe read a little more to you. That you can take a look at. Okay. I mentioned some. I said sad, low mood, cynical, pessimistic, difficulty concentrating. I'll read some more. You fly off the handle easily. Tired all the time. General, aches and pains. Because what happens, especially up here, because you don't realize that you're walking around tight, that your body is tight. You can't sit still. Okay, because you're just raising your mind. Your mind is telling you to do this and do that. You're on edge. Your nerves are on edge. Headache, constantly fidgeting. Like I said, you can't sleep. Lack of appetite. You eat too much, too little. Eating too much, sleep. Decreased sexual desire. You cry unnecessarily. You become angry suddenly. Because think about it. It's like your body is doing all it can to maintain the stress, right? And it gets to a point where, okay, your body in a sense is saying, okay, I think I'm handling it now. right? And then something happens out of the blue, then you just blow up, right? Because you become angry because you're overwhelmed is what's happening. Nothing seems to be going right. You're lonely, as I said before. Anxious, worried, all of these things are signs of, can be signs of stress, okay? Difficulty breathing. Some people have chest pains because you're just so stressed out. And as I said, tight jaw, tight here because you're just walking around here, which can lead to headaches because you're, there was a really good little test there, and I'll put it on the website because I can't find it now. But basically what I'm telling you, being tense, feeling overwhelmed, as I said before, can't sleep, increase in alcohol or drug use. And even if it's not alcohol or drug use, it's an increase in other behaviors that may not necessarily be good for you. Anything it can be bad for you. Even a good thing can be a bad thing if you do too much of it. Okay? You may find yourself watching TV too much, right? Because your mind is just wandering. You're not really never watching the TV. It's on. You're getting caught up in this fantasy world. Pornography. You may find yourself caught up in the pornography because what is it? You're trying to take your mind off of what's going on. You're just mindless, right? You're engaging in just mindless activities that's not really profitable, that's not really leading you anywhere, activities that's really, in the long run, can be detrimental if you don't get a handle on it. So again, number one, pay attention to what you're doing. Okay, what is going on with me? What symptoms am I experiencing? Number two, what can I do about it? Okay, number two, what is my happy place? What do I like doing? Three, force yourself to do something, and it's a force. Okay, I don't want to do anything. And as I said before, we can't let our feelings and emotions, how we're feeling now, put us in a situation that will negatively impact us later. Now, I don't want to do anything because I feel like, no, you don't need to tell me what to do. I don't want to do anything. I just feel like sleeping here. I get it. But as you feel like sleeping there and you're not doing anything, and as time passes on, do something. Come up with a list, right? Set goals. Hey, this is what I'm going to do today. This is what I'm going to do tomorrow. Set goals and check them off. Time yourself. Say, okay, I'm only going to do this for this one particular, for 5 minutes. I'll do this for 10. You got to time yourself, because what happens is you're cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself in the long run, because again, things that we don't take care of now, okay, situations, events that come up that are small now have the potential to be really big later, to grow into a mountain. So now you're dealing with something that you should have dealt with earlier, and now you're even more overwhelmed, right? Okay. If you're you don't feel like doing anything, you don't feel like calling into work, that's a problem. If you need your job, that's a problem, because you're so overwhelmed, you're so depressed, you're snapping at everyone, you're irritable at everyone on the job. So now you're fired, right? Well, I don't care, they can fire me, I'm going to hang out on the couch. And that may be fine to hang out on the couch, to sleep, and all that type of stuff. But what happens when rent or the mortgage is due? So now you got another stressor, right? Now the rent and the mortgage due, and you may not have the money. Okay, so you want to think about it. Again, our current feelings, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors will put us in a situation that we will regret later. So that's what I'm saying. It's okay to stop. It's okay to stop for a period of time, but just don't stop permanently. Okay, don't just get to the point where you want to move forward. You don't want to. You may not move. Some days you may not move real fast. Some days you may move real slow. But whatever it is, you need to move, do something. Okay, force yourself to do something. To write a note. To remind yourself of something. Some of you, you may need to pick up the phone and talk to someone. Some of you may need to take some medication. Some of you may need to exercise. I don't care if it's just walking around up and down the steps, 5 steps. Some of you, you may need to do something to get your mind to break that monotony, right? So again, this has been It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach with your host, Sister A. Legree, with just a quick word, just to remind you that don't let mental exhaustion get you to a situation or put you in a situation where you're permanently, where your life is permanently negatively impacted. You don't want to do that. You don't want to get to the point where you get so overwhelmed with your stress that it starts causing other problems, your physical health, your emotional health, right? You don't want that to happen. You don't want to get so overwhelmed with what's happening in your life. Again, we all get overwhelmed sometimes, or many of us do, and that's getting overwhelmed is not the problem. The problem is what we do when we get overwhelmed, right? Feeling depressed, feeling sad. We have emotions. God has given us emotions. Nothing wrong with the emotions. The problem is when the emotions are left, are not put in its proper place, or when the emotions get in the way of what we need to do, of what's happening in our lives. When those emotions lead to negative thoughts, and those negative thoughts lead to behaviors that are unhelpful, those negative thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are going to lead us to a future that we don't really want. So again, let's not make a permanent permanent decisions based on, and we hear this all the time, don't make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. Things change. Again, this is It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach with your host, Sister A. Legree. You can write us at Post Office Box 7432, Silver Spring, Maryland 20910. Again, God bless you. Have a great day.